Hello guys, and welcome back to another class of our course with the complete introduction to programming with Java. So basically in today's class we are going to talk about loops and basically practice the for loop. So you'll see it's pretty simple, and basically the code that we saw in the past class, we're going to practice it today and basically divide it step by step. So let's start. Alright, so as always, what we're going to do is starting with this, so our public class and public static void. And here what we want to do is really write down our for loop. So we'll do something pretty simple, and I'll really explain it step by step. So we start with our first of all, we are going to write down our for. So basically our for loop will be here. Then we are going to write down the data type. So you guys can use double, you guys can use int, so I'll write down double. And here the first statement, well basically it's the statement with which we start. So usually people write down int, I write down double, so it's not a big deal. And usually by default we write down a variable right here, so the variable will be I, and it's equal to 0. So we'll modify it a little bit later, but for now let's keep it at 0. Alright, so when it's done, basically the first step, what is it? It's the step that is executed before the execution of the whole code. And basically this is really the first step. So actually this is the step where everything will start. So we are going to start our verification from the number 0. Then the second step will be our condition. So here I only have one condition. And it's it will be I is, just verify it, great, and the condition will be I will be equal to, will be smaller than 15. So until I is smaller than 15, everything will run and will work fine. The last step is pretty simple. It's simply I that will be addition with 1. So each time that we want, for example, we want each time that our loop will be run, so it will run, it will be grown by 1. So basically it's going to be plus 1 each time. So we are going to try for 0, then for 1, for 2, until we reach 14, because at 15 it's not going to work anymore. So those are the those are the 3 steps, sorry, of our for loop. There we go. Great. Now when it's all done, the last thing is basically what exactly we want to print. So pretty simple, we'll just write it down. So system, so don't worry, I'll explain all this a little bit more in details. Here we go. All right. So right now we basically have everything that we need. So if we run our code, what's gonna happen? So pretty simple. Basically, we should have all the numbers from 0 to actually 14. So pretty simple. Let me just explain the whole code from the beginning. So first of all, what we write, we start with our for loop. So we write down our for right there. Then the next step is pretty simple. Here, we're going to write down our data type. So we need to write down our data type. So for our variable I right here, we need to create a data type. So basically, we are creating a variable right now. So double I, which would be our variable, is equal to 0. So our starting variable is 0, or so our starting point is actually 0. That's what we have right here. Then our condition. What exactly is our condition? So we want our loop to run until it's smaller than 15. So in this case, it's it's until 15. So because I is smaller than 15, if we change it, if for example we write down 25, what's gonna happen is that it will automatically change and go to 25. So this is why it's this is really the second step. It's the step where we write down our condition. And finally, the last step is basically the step where we are adding 1. It's possible to change it and to add not 1 but more than 1, basically adding in this case, let's say I want to add just write it right there. Let's say I want to add 2 to it. It's possible. So if I run my code, what's gonna happen is basically instead of adding 1, I will add little mistake. There we go. And let's rerun it. Great. So as you saw, there was a little bug. So it's really important to write down plus then equal, not the inverse. I made a little mistake. Great. So basically here is the step where you guys decide how much you want to add to basically your program. And in this case, I want to add 2. So a few seconds ago, I wanted to add 1. So if you just write down plus plus, it will automatically just add 1. If you want to add something else, so in this case, you can add something else. So let's say I want to add 0.5. It's possible since I'm working with doubles. That's why I like working with doubles. As you can see, all the numbers are generated right there. All right, so really important about the data types. So I cannot write down strings here. So for example, if I decide to write down, I don't know, hello, and I try to run it, I will automatically have a mistake because it doesn't make any sense. It's not linked to any variable. But if I decide, well, it's more this way. So if I write it down like this, it's not gonna work because I'm trying to make an addition of a string. So it doesn't make sense at all. But if I create a variable that is, for example, variable, I don't know, that I call hello. So here I write down, so my variable hello will be equal to, I don't know, 1. Well, let's make it equal to 5. And as I decide to run everything, what's gonna happen is that it will automatically work. So basically it will add 5. So pretty simple. So right now those are really just the basics. So as you can see, it's possible for me to create this for loop and then to modify what I have inside of it. So basically right now, if for example I want to play with the 15, it's possible. Now if I want to start with another number or I want to start with a variable, it's possible as well. So let's say for example I create another variable that I call var1. So let me just create a variable that I'll call var1. And in this case, I'll give him the value 3. So here, I can simply write down var1. And what's going to happen is that my starting point will be starting at variable number 1. Here we go. So if we run it, it will simply run from 3. Then it's going to be 3, 8, 13. Because once again, it's plus hello, and hello is equal to 5. So once again, right now, what you're seeing is really the basics of the for loop. It's possible to make it a little bit more complicated, working with different elements, integrated with arrays or other different elements. But for now, let's keep it as simple as it is. So pretty simple. What we have right now is 2 variables that I can add and basically, well, that I can add and play with them.